Hello world, and welcome to the very first episode of Indie Movie Review, or IMR, if you will. I decided to do a series like this because I feel that a lot of independent motion pictures don't really get enough limelight, so that is exactly my aim in this series. You should also note that I encourage you all to watch these movies, most of which will be available on Netflix. Because of this, I will not be including any spoilers. The aim here is to simply inform you of my impression of these movies while not ruining your potential experience in the process. So this week I am reviewing a Netflix original movie starring Elijah Wood and Melanie Lynskey, and as you can tell from the title of this video, it is I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. Our main character, Ruth, played by Melanie Lynskey, is a nursing assistant. She basically starts off the movie having a terribly shitty day. So she starts off her day at work with one of her patients dying, and then upon going home after work, she discovers that her house has been burgled. When she reports this to the police, she discovers that they're not exactly very helpful, and then comes to the conclusion that they most likely will never be helpful. So she teams up with her neighbor Tony, played by Elijah Wood, to track down her stolen possessions, including a laptop, medications, and her grandmother's silverware, pretty much taking the law into her own hands. You can totally tell that this is an indie movie, as it has a very raw style to the script. The sort of rawness that you just don't get with many mainstream movies. The movie also doesn't start out too slow, which is always a great thing. It starts out with just the right sort of pacing in order to get enough of a backstory on our main characters, which is exactly how every movie ought to start off. This movie is pure indie. It doesn't follow any of the usual Hollywood plot lines, and that suits it just perfect. Many people who are more accustomed to more predictable plot lines found in many mainstream movies may not appreciate its unexpected twists and turns. But for many of us who like to see something different and something more original with a more fresh take on telling a story, you will definitely appreciate this movie. The acting from the entire cast is just incredible. Now I do realize it may come across as a little biased because I am a fan of Elijah Wood and I've enjoyed him in every role I've ever seen him in, and this is certainly no exception whatsoever. He's just incredible as Tony. He is portraying a very complex and very interesting character to perfection. At first you think he's kind of a stuck-up asshole. Then you start to think, well, actually, hang on a moment, he's actually a really sweet guy. And then you start to think he's kind of a psycho for a moment. And then you start to realize again, actually, no, he is a really sweet guy after all. He just has a really extreme personality. This character is so complex. And I just love the fact that he has a dog called Kevin. That is just the icing on the cake. It's brilliant. Of course, this is a massive contrast with Ruth. Now, Ruth is a very introverted character, very cut off from the world, so to speak. She's obviously lived a very sheltered life, doesn't really understand how the world works and the complexity of humanity and such. But the very moment she starts to realize and starts to understand how the world really works, we see a dramatic shift in her character. She pretty much adopts this fuck society sort of realization and attitude, which works very well. The reason why it works is because she doesn't quite know how to approach this new realization, and there's certain moments where you can tell that she really wants to just let it all loose, and you can see her getting there closer and closer in every moment of the movie from this point on, and it is just so very entertaining to watch. The chain of events that unfold from here on in this movie are hilarious, emotional, and unexpected. The great thing about this movie is that it has a message, a very important message, and that message is the world has a lot of shitty people in it. They do a lot of shitty things, and no amount of outrage and disgust is going to change that. It's okay to be a nice person, but every once in a while you really ought to stand up for yourself. And I have to say, the way and means in which this movie illustrates that message is done in a very realist way, while maintaining its very true and indie style. It is a beautifully shot movie, and I would regard it as a piece of art. Because in the midst of the madness of what our characters go through, at its raw basics, we have a story about two characters two very lonely people who find a way to come together. I really enjoyed this movie and I recommend everyone to go watch it as soon as you can. It is a Netflix original, so if you have a Netflix account, please go watch it. My rating for this movie is 5 stars. I was not disappointed with this movie at all. So that's my review for I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. Maybe you have already seen this movie, so what are your thoughts on it if that is the case? And write a comment down below or submit a video response via the video response link in the description box. And until next time guys, thank you so very much for watching. Freedom, peace and love.